Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while since we had a video, but we got some pretty exciting news today with the Regiments of Renown dropping, and there's a bunch of amazing lore in some very tight descriptions. But basically, these are little units or little sets of units that you can put into your army, and it means that you can play things together that you normally wouldn't get to play together. Maybe you want to put a gargant in your order army, or even something like a Sylvaneth into a death army. There's all these weird mix-ups where you'd think like, how could I ever run chaos units in my Cities of Sigmar army? Well, we have all of that, and we're going to take a look at it together. So first up, we have the Enforcers of the Tithe, which is an Osiarch Bone Reaper Regiment of Renown. So what this means is you can put a Mortisan Ossifector, 10 Mortek Guard, 10 more Mortek Guard, and a Gothisar Harvester into your army, and there's all the factions right there that you can include in this little option. And so there's tons of cool things there. There's destruction armies, there's your death armies, there's a chaos army in the Skaven, and then there's some order armies. If you can even imagine them working with the Osiarch Bone Reapers, which is what's so cool about this. It's so hard to picture, but it's because the Osiarch Bone Reapers at a certain point are just looking to fulfill their bone tithe so that they can continue to build up their forces, and to do so they will work with these different armies. And so there is a really cool ability that you can use here where basically if you have someone, your Gothisar Harvester, if it uses this ability called Collect the Tithe on a non-hero infantry unit of your enemies, and you get this roll off, basically you get a bone tithe point. And then once you get 6, you can actually resurrect half of a unit of Mortek Guard from the dead. If they've totally been wiped out, you can keep bringing them back. So it gives you that theme of a death faction, but you can play it in any other faction. And you even get a spell that taxes your own unit. So the soul tax gives one of your units no control, but then it gives one of the Regiment of Renown units 1 to hit and to wound rolls, which is really, really good. Now, part of that is that they don't have access to some of their faction stuff, but still really good spell, very cool. The second one are the Exile Scavengers. So this is a group of Caradhran overlords that have actually ran away from their skyport. Basically, it was Gron Yormson who took matters into his own hands. He bribed some people. He escaped the skyport that he was in because he had come under repeated accusations of unsanctioned resource sharing. And if you know anything about these Dwarden, they're very, very much all about the rules and allocations and doing what you have been cleared to do. So now he follows around different armies that he thinks are going to lead him to resources and treasure. And so what that means is basically you get a small little outfit of these Caradhrans, and what they can do is, first of all, they can deep strike. You can put them into reserve, you can deep strike them somewhere else, but then if they attack an enemy and are in combat with them, you can roll a dice every turn, and if you get a 6, then you actually steal the artifact of power from the hero that you are fighting. So kind of niche, maybe hard to apply, but maybe not, depending on the fact that you can deep strike. But honestly, really cool lore to see what happens when there's these rogue units. What are these rogue characters? What do they actually get up to? Because you can see they're going to work with death factions, destruction factions. They can even work with chaos with Slaves to Darkness, which I find quite interesting. Next up, I think this is the coolest one, the Squires of the Everchosen. So Utgar Harrowhand was once a Vanguard, like a freaking Vanguard, super elite Slaves to Darkness unit, and he was one of the Everchosen's executioners until he had a run-in with a nest of flesh eaters, and so he is under the delusion. He's been transformed into a Vargulf, but he can still gain his sanity back once in a while, and that leads him to do different things on the battlefield than you would expect a flesh eater to do, and it even affects the soldiers, the flesh eater soldiers that are loyal to him. So the outcome from this is that all of a sudden you have some flesh eater court units that can all of a sudden work for chaos faction armies. Really, really cool. It gives you that option of bringing something totally different to the table. And the ability that they have is basically you pick somebody to be the enemy of the everchosen, and if you destroy them, then you just get 10 to the control score. So it's going to be a control heavy group that is going to be working, mainly to hunt down one specific person and then get a big bonus from it. This next one is pretty crazy. It's the Lost Song Spirits. So basically these are Sylvaneth that are totally cut off from their own kind. They cannot hear any of the spirit song. And so all they hear are the cries of the dead. And so what they do is they just attack people. They follow the dead. They follow these different death factions, and so we have Sylvaneth that can join specifically death factions, and they have some really cool abilities, including in your enemy's hero phase, one of the units can actually make a normal move and maybe intercept, could screen, could set up for a counter charge, could take an objective. The implications are pretty big. It happens at the end of their hero phase, of course, but then there's also this ominous fog ability, which basically means that the spite revenants that are in this regiment cannot be seen if they are wholly within 9 inches of the tree lord that is in that regiment of renown. So really thematic ability, these kind of like half dead like tree spirits, like drifting from battlefield to battlefield. You don't even see them until it's too late, and yeah, they can just wander around on your opponent's turn. Really cool stuff. This one is maybe one of the best ones. I guess it's a real toss-up between a few of them, but this one's really cool. So basically you buy some Nurglings, okay, and then you basically play under the idea that your army has been infected by one of Nurgle's gifts. And so when one of your models dies, or not models, sorry, when one of your actual units dies, you can then try to bring one of these Nurgling units out of reserve onto the battlefield. They can go straight into combat. So basically, when a unit dies, you roll a dice on a 5+, you get to set up a Nurgling that has exploded from the corpse of this dead unit. Okay, but for every unit that dies, that roll becomes easier and easier. So near the end of the battle, you are sure to have tons of little Nurglings running around, fighting people, probably, tar pitting a lot of people, because if they explode out of a dead unit, they will then put, your opponent into combat and keep them around. So really when your screens go down, it's just extra screens, which is quite cool. We then have the Stumblefoot Gargant, which is basically a really drunk man crusher gargant. Specifically, this is somebody who looted too much ale and got carried away and is just running around the land killing things. And so it even says here that a canny commander will simply move their troops out of the way and allow this man crusher to do what it can do. So you get the man crusher and you get 3 different rampages. You get a shooting one that can hit enemies and allies alike that will do some mortal damage. You get a roar that's in combat that basically will subtract 1 from hit rolls from the enemy that's in combat with this man crusher. And then finally, this one's pretty cool. If you've actually charged with this unit, you can then use this ability to roll 2d6 and move again. This move has to target a specific unit and you have to end up with them, but you can walk over people. You don't have to play by the rule of not being able to move past a screen. This guy can get past a screen, which means that you can bypass screens, go straight to some sort of foot hero or wizard or something, or onto an objective, whatever. It makes your opponent's screens meaningless. It's quite cool. We've got 2 more to go. The next one is Snerk's trogg-fer-hire. This one's the best one. I'm gonna say it, okay? Because basically, this little guy, Snerk here, Snerk Moon Eater, decided to give mercenary life a go. Didn't go well. He's a grot, not very helpful. Nobody wants to hire you. So instead, what he decided to do was wake up a Troggoth and then act as the go-between between the Troggoth and then whoever's hiring the Troggoth, and he's keeping some of the money for himself for safekeeping. So you get both of these, and basically what this does for you is really it brings the Troggoth. That's the big thing. And the Troggoth is able to use charge and retreats as long as it's close to the loon boss, and also it gives the loon boss a ward, but if the ward is successful, if you actually ward off some damage for the loon boss, it does deal damage to the Troggoth. So they are kind of linked together. This is a really cool one because you can bring, again, this big model, centerpiece model that you've probably wanted to paint, but maybe wouldn't fit into your army. And it goes into all, I think all of the order armies. It goes into some chaos armies. It goes into some death and destruction armies. Very, very cool. He'll work for literally anybody. Finally, we have the Goroan scions. So these are Gorons. These guys were like kind of ogres of old, but they've been mutated by chaos. But not all of these clans were totally mutated or totally taken over by chaos, and some of them stayed faithful and will still work with the destruction armies. So these are chaos units that can work with any of the destruction armies, and you get 5 ogroids, and they get some pretty cool stuff, including a spell that gives strike last, very powerful, but also the ability to give a destruction hero +1 rend for a 3-up, and you can do it once per turn in your hero phase. Very powerful ability if you have a combat savvy hero you're going to be hurling in there, which in destruction is more than likely. Really like to see that. These models are epic. Like, I mean, this picture is really well done, of course, as well, but the fact that these clearly very very destruction themed models can now play in a destruction army is excellent. It's great. So that's it. I'm kind of curious which regiment you're most likely to play with. If I had to pick one for myself, I think that I would have to go either in the Osiark region, because that's a death army that I'm really interested in. Maybe I'd go with the Duardin because I just think they're really cool and I love Duardin. And possibly I'd go with like a Troggoth or Gargant, but I don't know. Like, honestly, all of these look really cool. A lot of them work with Cities of Sigmar, which is great for me, because, like, you know, they kind of need a little bit of help. But I'm really curious what you would want to play with, or what this enables for you. Maybe you have some of these factions already and all of a sudden you can start putting them together. If that's the case, congratulations. Otherwise, it's been a while since I've done a video. I appreciate you all stopping by. Let me know how you're all doing, how your hobby stuff's going. You can always let me know on Discord as well. As for me, I've just been super busy. I just finished my report cards. I've also been coaching wrestling, you know, pretty much every day. So my free time is incredibly limited. That is why I haven't really done a video and why I'm not really in practice of doing videos. So if I misspoke, or, you know, I just seemed kind of, I don't know, out of practice or out of touch, I'm working on it. I'll make my return soon enough with some more videos. I have tons of ideas. I've slowly been working on some scripts, but it's really not a priority for me right now as I focus on my job and I focus on my extracurriculars that I love to run. So with that all said, I'll see you all soon again, hopefully soon in another video.